Asif, how are you today? How are things
Good,
going?
Bonnie. I'm well, thank you. How are you doing?
I'm great. This movie, I'm going to be honest, scared the crap out of me because of the subject matter. What can I say? It's really scary out there. It really, really is. And I did a little bit of research on the Mesa killings because I really didn't know a lot about it. And the fact that this guy could still be out there is even more scary than anything. What was it for you to kind of sit down, take these, base this on the true events, sit down, write it, and then decide, I'm going to direct this and bring this movie to the forefront?
No, and first off, thank you, Bonnie, for recognizing the subject matter and understanding the film. For not only is it an entertaining, film, but to me, it's not about the entertainment
Yeah.
in the cinematic experience. It's more about the awareness that we're trying to bring with this subject matter because it is a real life horror story. And to me, serial killers and evil people like that are more horrific than watching ghost stories or,
Yeah.
Friday the 13th Jason slasher killing someone. It's this is something that could be next door to you. Your
Exactly.
neighbor could be a serial killer, someone you run into in the grocery store, someone you're, walking by. It's just right out there. And also being a girl dad, I have a daughter, a family, and it's like just you can't imagine what these family members go through. And then also in our film, we showcase what the law enforcement
Yes.
people go through, and it
Yes.
affects so many lives, and it's happening every day. And the stats that we show in it, it's they're real statistics on, how many active serial killers are still out there today. Over 2,000 just in the US alone that law
Frightening.
enforcement are aware about that
Right.
have not been caught. That's crazy. Just
Yeah.
just in the US alone, there's over 600,000 missing persons cases yearly in the US alone. So imagine the global statistics. So
Oh,
there's nothing scarier than that.
yeah. And you're right, because when it is real life, you're 100% right. You could sit in a theater and watch scary movies and you go, it's a movie, it's a movie, it's special effects,
Right.
When you've hit the button here, because yes, it could happen anywhere, unfortunately, and it's very scary. How true, like obviously you have a responsibility here. You know what I mean? You don't want to
Yes.
sensationalize it, yet you still want to make it an entertaining film, as you've said. What kind of challenge did you have when you sat down to write it?
So we had a writing team, Vincent McDaniel, my writing partner and producing partner on this, along with Koji Steven Sakai and Hank Bird. There were four of us writing it, and at the same
Mhm.
time, I would like to give credit to even some of the actors. We work in a very collaborative way, and even with Mel, I mean, he was so supportive and collaborative. There were scenes we were writing on the spot and
Mm.
changing dialogue, changing scenes, adding scenes, and it was evolving even on set. But one thing we always wanted to stay true to is, of course, respecting, the real life victims and their family
Of
members,
course.
and even the law enforcement, personnel like from the FBI side and the APD side. And that's why we had to mix it with inspirations from different cases across the board, not just, the West Mesa murders, even though that was a big inspiration. And we kind of, centered the story around that case,
Mm.
and along with, different serial killer cases that have different pieces that can bring it together to tell this story of different layers with different characters and what they're going through and how they're affected and how they're contributing to this investigation. To where, for us, it was always about educating and bringing awareness to the audience. We didn't
Sure.
think about the entertainment side of it first. That was not our priority. Obviously, we have to tell a story, and the
Yeah.
story the audience can take whichever way they want to, but it's the information that they're walking away with from that, storytelling structure is what our main goal and purpose was on this. It's like, I don't, at the end of the day, yes, I want people to watch this from the beginning to end and be entertained,
Mm,
but more importantly, through this film, I want them to be more educated, to be able to either prevent being in a situation like this or being a victim of a crime like this, or being able to cope with it, or being able to seek help, where help is needed. There's
100%.
so many different organizations and outlets, and then, or if you have any tips with cases, that are similar to this, whether it is the West Mesa murders case that's still open, or there's so
Yeah.
many cold cases, like I just mentioned, there's over 600,000 missing persons cold cases right now, which is unbelievable. I mean,
Yeah.
it almost
Yeah.
doesn't even make sense. I mean, that's stranger than fiction. You couldn't write that stuff
Yeah.
up.
Yeah.
So to me, that's the goal, is to, even if we save one person, or even if we, solve one case, we've done our job. And it is a great responsibility as a filmmaker.
Oh, 100%. There's no question about that. And then, you've assembled this amazing cast, like quite the ensemble cast. So let's start with Mel Gibson because I love the fact, it's not a giant role for him, but it's an important role, obviously. He's
Very
kind of a
important.
quirky guy in a way, but he's focused in on trying to help solve this.
Yeah.
What's it like for you as a filmmaker to work with somebody like him, who is also obviously an acclaimed director, actor's been around the block for a long time?
Yeah.
You're directing Mel Gibson. Discuss.
One word, I mean, definitely inspiring. I mean, very inspiring at all times, and he was very supportive. It almost felt like I've known him for years, even though this is the first time we're working together, and I got to know him. And one of the interesting things he told me was that usually when he casts for his movies, when he's directing, he doesn't usually like to do auditions. He will just talk to the actors or talk
Get a
to people for
feel.
five
Yeah.
minutes, and he gets a feel. And I was like, you know what? That's very similar to how I cast and how I think. And so we had a lot of similarities and common ground in how we direct, in our style of directing. And obviously I was soaking up every moment like a sponge and learning from him and getting to see how similar we are. And even before we started working, when we sat down for dinner one night and we talked for hours, about
Mm,
just everything, about life, about everything and anything other than just even making movies. So when you get to know someone personally like that, it just makes it easier and more comfortable to collaborate and making creative things like we did. And he was just so supportive on set of also giving me the respect as the director, and collaborating in a way of where it's like more of a debate than just commanding, where it's like, oh no, it has to be this way, or I want it this way. It's more like, could it be this way? What do you think
yeah.
about this? And can we try this, or maybe this, or maybe not? So it was comfortable,
Yeah.
on set.
Yeah.
That's why we were able to also get so much done in a short period of time. I mean,
Yeah.
with the shooting schedule, that was one of the challenging pieces of, so much material we had to cover, and so many
Yeah.
characters, and different angles that we had to really fit into this hour and a half story.
Yeah, and I was really intrigued actually by Nora's character, Detective Young, because she's really the
Mhm.
only female presence we see.
Her
And
and Gail,
yes,
who played the
yeah,
female FBI agent,
yeah,
and that was important, even though they were small, which goes with the realism of what happened even in some of these cases, where
right,
they're in a male dominating world when it comes to law enforcement, and
exactly. Yeah,
those little voices from a female's perspective, when it's dealing with female victims and cases like this, it's very important. I mean, we kind of showcased that a little bit in the film too, where you see the difference of a woman being interrogated by a male detective
right.
versus being interrogated by a female detective, and you can see the comfort difference, and
Oh, for
also
sure.
the
Yeah,
the way they think. So it was kind of minimal, but that's the reality of
Yeah.
some of the complications and challenges in those investigations.
Yeah, scary. Yeah, it's very, very interesting to dig in. You know, you what I love about you, Asif, is that you really try different genres. Like you do so many different things. You've got another film, Mojave Diamond, you know, with these, you know, testosterone filled fighters. You know what I mean? Like, oh my God, I can't even imagine what it was like to work on something like that. And then, you know, like you mixing it up. How much do you enjoy? Like, is there something that you prefer? Like once you've kind of done something, go, oh, stick to this genre, or do you just like to mix it up all the time?
No, that's exactly it. I love to mix it up all the time, and that's how I kind of shaped myself from the beginning of my career. Was, I tried hard to not get pigeonholed into, being one genre director or one style director. And, I made a couple documentaries earlier on in my career too. And,
Yeah,
I've had, people write about me being the next documentary filmmaker and this, and I kind of, shunned away from it, thinking, I don't want to get boxed in. I want to
yeah,
just make movies. I want to make different movies, just like how I watch different movies. I love watching different genres, different styles, different, I've always loved documentaries and horror films, action, dramas. It's really, about the inspiration of the
for sure.
project at that time. And, sometimes I'm a, career director, filmmaker. Sometimes you have to make certain films, for the job and for a paycheck or for many other reasons,
Yeah,
factored in. And then there are films like Boneyard, where it almost is like we were talking about, it is a social responsibility being a filmmaker and having these opportunities and being privileged enough to be able to have a platform to tell your stories. And
for
when you
sure.
tell certain stories that are meaningful like this or have a purpose to serve, that's what makes it all worthwhile,
Mhm.
and I see it differently, and I'm also in the middle of production on the docuseries based on the West Mesa murders, true case.
Yeah.
That one is going to be telling the true story, but it's serving almost the same purpose as
Yeah.
this film. So that's where the reward is on these kinds of films, is to be able to really utilize what we're blessed to be able to do to give
Mhm.
back, contribute, and serve a purpose through our work.
100%. Yeah. Well, you do a great job. Congratulations on this one. And it was a real pleasure to have the opportunity to talk to you this afternoon. I really appreciate your time. So thank you so much. And best of luck with the
Thank you,
film.
Bonnie. The
All
pleasure
right.
was mine. Thank
All
you.
right. Take care. Have a nice
Take care.
day. Bye bye.
You too. Bye.
Thanks, Bonnie.
Bye. Thanks, Emma. Bye bye.
Bye, love.